Hello everybody and welcome back to the Bocho's Brother channel. Pretend that you just walked down to your local game shop. Maybe you're on the U district somewhere. You walk into the place, you see the Predator versus Alien sculpture. You make your way back to the D&D 5e area and you find yourself in front of this book, Grim Hollow, the Player's Guide. And before you buy it, you say, I want to peruse through it, see what it's got. So that's what we're here to do today. Check out this book, see if it's worthwhile for your D&D adventures. As you can see from the cover, you have some characters here. Looks like you've got this fiend with two muskets, paladin of sorts, this druid here that's become quite woody and almost morphed into the forest. That's probably a transformation. And then this little guy here with the flute, who we will find out what he's about. I think he's kind of made of wood. He's an automaton called a Weshel child. So let's delve right in. In the first page, you get this beautiful map of Etharis right there on the cover, which is really nice. Some books come and they just have the black pages here. In this one, you can always return here for a reference and to recognize these places where the Valakan clans are, the Burak Empire, the Ostoyan Empire, the Charlotte Kingdom, and the Castilian Province. You can check out some of my other videos. We come in here, you get your table of contents. And the thing I like about this book is there's a lot of little nifty art pieces scattered about, as well as the pages look like some sort of a parchment here. So it's not just basic white pages, it looks like an ancient tome you found. The font, very readable, perfect for the theme. It's kind of this Times New Roman with some dark bloody ink for the titles and spaces. They introduce you here to the world of Etharis and dark fantasy, which is good if you're going to start a campaign here, to kind of talk it over with your players, as well as review it yourself so you know what's going on in this dark world. Look, you got the apple there, right? Like Snow White, the poisonous apple. That gives you a hint to what's going to be going on here. And so you got humanity is cruel, victories are earned. It's a dark world. It's difficult to get by. It's harsh, so it's not high fantasy. It's almost on the brink of terror and horror fantasy. I've been running my campaign now for a year in this world of Etharis, so I'm a little bit more up to date than when I opened the box the first time a year ago. Beautiful art as always. Now you'll remember that little Weshel child on the cover. Here we have the exotic races of Etharis. So these are the ones outside of your classic elf, dwarf, human. And the first one we talk about here is the Weshel kind. And these little guys are amazing. They're like little automatons who are about 2 or 3 feet high. They were originally like children, like regular human children, but the Fae folk came and captured the baby child at its start of life and replaced it with this doll automaton, which then gets the soul of the child while the real child goes off into the Feywild. And we already had a character playing a rogue as one of these. Very interesting. You wouldn't want to drop them in very frequently. This should be something kind of rare that you find in the game, as well as many of the things in here. It's mostly a human populated world, so when you encounter something different, it's very unique. Weshel kind. Then you have here the Laneshi. Now the Laneshi are kind of a sea people. They're living under the water, in fact. They keep to themselves. They live kind of off the coasts, I'd say, to the south of Charnault and also to the east coast of Ostoya and the Castilian Empire. They are also just emerging from the depths and getting involved in society and whatnot. But they would also be quite rare, so you're going to want to have a lot of scenarios where you kind of got your hood up, you're trying not to be recognized, and your whole story and background develops out of this unique race. Then you have the Ogresh. Now these guys are quite cool. They look big. They look like, okay, this is going to be a barbarian fighter class, but they are in fact travelers of the world, lore keepers, bards, very educated folk, and they kind of travel all over the land and share stories and news, but they're quite big. They're ogrish. Maybe they have a little ogre blood in them. So yeah, this might make you think a little bit of Game of Thrones, or what was that guy's name? Holder. Something along that size, but the friendly giant, let's say, ogrish. And then you get the Downcast. These ones are quite cool. We have a ranger in the party that is one of these Downcast. Now, as you may know, in this world, there were gods that were involved many years ago, but they have disappeared. And all that's been left behind are the arch-seraphs, as well as the arch-demons and devils in the land. And so the story of these Downcast is that they were once full-on angels, full-on seraphs, but after the disappearance of the gods, they have lost their wings, they've lost much of their powers. They still have these traits that make them very obvious that they're not fully human, but we have one of these in the party, and I'm playing some Diablo right now, and I think this would be really cool to have this guy be kind of like the Horodrum, or what's the name of those humans that were kind of came from devils and angels. Put it in the comments below if you're one of the Diablo players out there. But yeah, that's how I'm going to run these guys in the campaign. So a lot of story that can happen with these guys. Later on, transformations can happen as well. So they could return to becoming a seraph, or they could become a fallen angel and become a fiend. So very interesting. You're able to see here as well, you know, their unique traits that they get with the class. And there's different styles of angel that came from each of the gods. There was the god Aurelia, and there was the god Ulmir, and there was the god Malagant, and the god Galtian. So depending on which seraph they were part of, that is how you will decide the fate of your character. Let's see if there's more. There is more. Here we have the Dreamers. Now this race is a race that was captured deep below the earth. They hid themselves during this great war of the gods, when the gods were going insane. Battles were happening. There was also dwarves were being pushed away into the mountains. Elves were being wiped out. The humans mostly of the Burak Empire were expanding, and this race kind of protected themselves in a vault, almost like Fallout. They've just been outside of society for a long time, and they are just emerging. And as you can see here, they've got some special abilities where it has to do with sleeping. They're kind of dreaming and foreseeing the future, or remembering things from the past because they're quite ancient. So there you have the Dreamers as a race. And I think finally, this might be the final one, the Disembodied. And these Disembodied are wizards, or just human beings that were in the north of the Ostoyan Empire. They began doing experiments with magic. They delved too far. They, what's that phrase? They say, the Disembodied. They were so busy trying to decipher whether they could, that they never decided whether they should. So that's the Disembodied. They were trapped in a spell, torn from their bodies, but their souls kind of remained, and they've become kind of an ethereal being that can materialize and seem like they're fully human or fully physical, but at the same time, then sometimes they disappear, and I believe they can do phantasmal kind of stuff, which combines really well with a transformation later on, which is the Spectre. There you have it. That's the races.